In this video, I'll be talking about Leigh syndrome, its prevalence in our population, causes, how metabolic processes are affected, and more. What is it and where? To start off, Leigh's disease is a neurological disease caused by a mitochondrial deficiency of an enzyme or lack of pyruvate dehydrogenase. It is lethal and typically is diagnosed in children as symptoms usually prevail at the age of 3 months or older. The disease causes its carrier to lose motor skills acquired, and this is because vital brain cells are affected. Leigh syndrome affects the central nervous system, which would also explain the motor skills lost, as well as mental regression caused by this disease. There is also a high number of people in places such as the Faroe Islands affected by it, where 1 in 1,700 individuals are. Despite this, the disease is quite rare on a global scale. Causes of Leigh's disease. There are 2 causes of this disease, the first being a mutation occurring in the mitochondrial DNA and a lack of the complex pyruvate dehydrogenase, which is essential to produce ATP during cellular respiration, is the second. ATP drives all metabolic processes, and without it, the body goes into a chronic lack of energy state. There is a mutation of this disease located on the X chromosome called X-linked Leigh's disease and is typically prevalent in males. How are metabolic processes affected? Leigh syndrome is a mitochondrial disease. Both causes affect ATP production within the cell. Someone affected by the disease would have 4/5 of protein complexes for oxidative phosphorylation missing. Symptoms and diagnosis. There are various contrasting symptoms that accompany this disease, which include, but are not limited to, neurological disorder, motor functions loss, consistent vomiting, appetite loss, and more. A diagnosis can be made after an MRI scan, special testing, and other various tests. Treatments and accommodation. There is no cure for this disease, and people do not heal from it either. However, many patients with this disease are deficient in vitamin B or thiamine, and thus the body is unable to fully utilize carbohydrates as energy. Since there is no cure and the disease affects ATP, which is vital for our survival, most patients have 2 to 3 years to live. Cost of treatment. I'd imagine that getting treatment or even a diagnosis for this disease is very costly, as various drugs have to be administered, some more than others. Sometimes cocktails of drugs have to be mixed for patients to treat with side effects and more. And high technological imaging scans such as MRI and CAT scans might be used to reach a diagnosis. DNA testing and more also have to be factored in for the costs. Research. There aren't many clinical trials for this disease simply because of the fact that it is quite rare. The clinical trials that do exist are mostly targeting mitochondrial diseases in general and not Leigh's disease specifically. However, them targeting mitochondrial DNAs include Leigh syndrome, which helps in finding a cure. Clinical trials for it are testing treatments of certain drugs as well as biomarkers of the disease to see what could help in curing it. Clinical trials like these usually involve a placebo administered as well. There are several patients, half of them get a placebo and the other half get the drug that is being tested in the clinical trials. Those who have the placebo do not know that it is a placebo. They simply know that there is a chance that it could be. After the placebo and the drugs are being administered, researchers run tests and imaging scans to see the effects of both the placebo on a patient and the drug being tested. Currently, the drugs being tested for mitochondrial DNAs include EPI 743, ABI 009, KH176, and more.